Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. So today we're going to be looking at the new so-called incoming Batman game. And we're going to be looking at some context behind a lot of this. There are so many constraints that seem to maybe want to affect this game. And this video is going to be slightly longer, discussing a lot of pertinent information before and then some information after. So hopefully you're able to stick around. I'm going to try my best to keep it maybe under 10 minutes and fly as fast as possible. I don't want to delay you too much on this topic. So if you think about all the information that we've received, I think around 2018, maybe end of 2017, somewhere around then, we started getting whispers and rumors about what this Batman game was, going to be, or that there was a Batman game in the works that hadn't been canceled after other Batman games had been canceled. And so since then, a lot of the fan base have been waiting to see what this was about. And in 2018, around the end, I started a channel basically following the news and following and charting along with what was going on. And it was quite an interesting time to see basically a lot of the changes and a lot of the developments within the gaming community and even within the developer community. But one thing that was really interesting was how quiet Warner Brothers stayed about all of this. It wasn't until around, I guess maybe the beginning of 2020 or somewhere around then, that the development team started to do some reveals, or I think it was maybe I don't know if it was end of 2019. I can't even remember the timeline very well. But Warner Brothers Games Montreal basically started posting some snippets on their, Twitter page. And these things were logos and symbols, and everybody got really excited. And we kind of did some investigation about the logos and the symbols based on that little dial, Project Redacted and all that stuff. And as we had even known that it was, the Court of Owls was going to basically be as one of the major villains, it wasn't really difficult to kind of pull some, dots together and connect things. Now, as we're approaching August, the DC Fandom event is coming, and this has a lot of people quite excited, myself included. I'll be really excited to see a Batman game, because that means, we're going to have a game after, having so many years of silence, just pure silence, and Warner Brothers basically promoting, releasing, and even publishing other games along the way. I mean, think about it. They're going to be one of the primary publishers of Cyberpunk 2077, and they've also been able to do Injustice and also been able to do a Mortal Kombat game in that time span. Talking about a Hitman game, talking about a Middle-earth Shadow of War game. So they've had many games that are basically, filled that void, but nothing pertaining to the Batman audience in regard to a single player experience, story driven Batman comic core type of video game, if you get what I mean. And even Spider-Man had, free reign in this generation, basically, because Sony was smart enough to release that game at a time when Warner Brothers didn't seem interested in bringing anything to the table. Now, all these delays, I feel like, have been basically just poor management within the Warner Brothers interactive entertainment side of things. One of the reasons I feel like you see a lot of the movies that were even released at that time too, if you go back and look at some of the in-depth reporting, you just see that there was a lot of bad managerial, decisions. And even the Snyder Cut being some kind of a phenomenon now was something that fans had asked for a long time. But because of the top brass in the whole scheme of things, decided not to do it. And so Warner Brothers had been hurting and eventually got sold to AT&T. This probably caused a big, huge halt in all of this. And now that we're about to get this Batman game released, AT&T is trying to, divest themselves of Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment regarding the gaming side. Now, many people have said this is probably a good idea. Some have said this isn't a good idea. But something that was really interesting was while we were waiting for all of this, I started to suspect that there seemed to have been some kind of an exclusivity war that may have been ensuing, or somebody was trying to take advantage of this exclusivity war. And I made a video asking the new Batman game who wins the exclusivity war. And in this video, I talked about the possibility or the potential that it seemed like Sony or Microsoft would probably be trying to get some exclusive dealings surrounding this new game if it even existed. And in that video, a lot of people kind of, responded and said, well, some people said things like Microsoft doesn't really pay for exclusive content on multi-platform games anymore like Sony does, but I think they'll partner with Xbox, so Sony has Avengers and Spider-Man. And there seems to be a lot more leanings even within, audience members that it seems like there's a huge likelihood that, Warner Brothers will want to partner with Xbox. But at that time, we didn't really know what the financial situation on AT&T was and how that had a bearing on this game. In fact, I even made a second video asking if Xbox was trying to snag a Batman or Superman exclusive. Well, fast forward to today, we have seen, or maybe about a few months ago, we see that this information is actually starting to gain more traction now that new information is coming to light. Prior to then, I made those videos basically on a suggestion, a notion, just a gut feeling, because the delay seemed kind of irrational, because money is there or was there to be made. But I basically mentioned in these videos that it seemed like Microsoft or it seemed that Warner Brothers wanted to gain the most out of these video games. And if an exclusivity deal paid them a little bit more, then I felt like they were going to go for it. Now, we see that AT&T basically has investors that are basically trying to push for the studio to sell, part of their positions to be able to recover money because they're in so much debt. And these positions that they have and they're trying to divest of, is something that seems very beneficial for Warner Brothers right now. And that is their games section. That's their games, department of the whole interactive thing that Warner Brothers has going on. And I think if Xbox or Microsoft is able to snag this deal, Microsoft will put themselves in a very strong position, because right now Sony is definitely in the strong position for the next generation. It's without question and without doubt that Sony is going to win this exclusivity war unless Microsoft can pull something very strong off. Now, back in the day, it used to be a thing of, which controller is better, which console is better, which one is this, which one's that. But a lot of those things are starting to wane because we see that the way video games are developed, if they're not exclusives, are developed to be able to perform similarly on, both machines. But now it seems like Sony has basically stacked the deck with a lot of different things, including exclusives, benefits, and even a strong means of making their games run faster by using your very expensive, or very, I would say, well done SSD to be able to make their games run faster. And even if Xbox may have a strong machine as well, at the end of the day, players buy consoles for playing games. And I feel like if you look at all these constraints and put them together, this is where Warner Brothers and this is where Microsoft are going to have to scratch one another's back. Warner Brothers and AT&T, or AT&T basically needs to divest of some of their investments. And I don't think they really care much about this investment. I think they need to put that investment out and give it to Microsoft, who has experience developing games, experience managing studios, experience bringing games to the market, and a huge, huge war chest. Now, many people have not referenced this, but at the time that, we had a change of administration in the United States, one of the things this administration did was actually give huge amounts of tax cuts, especially corporate tax cuts. I reported on this in about 2018 or so, towards the fall, and there was a news article stating that Microsoft actually benefited and was able to save up a few $billions based on these tax cuts. I think it was close to $1.5 billion. And if you kind of aggregate how much these tax cuts have accumulated, I think Microsoft basically has enough money to be able to purchase this particular arm of AT&T's Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment without any problems. Now, they did go ahead and open up a few more studios, so probably they've actually, invested heavily in these other studios as well. But I think this is probably where they need to be able to push that bank account number and open that checkbook. And I think that's probably what we're going to see. They need to drop, at least, in my opinion, to stay competitive and win the deals. They need to be able to drop and outcompete the other people that are interested in this, because Activision is interested, EA is interested, Take-Two is also interested. But it seems like those other companies have faded away because it seems like a very huge financial constraint. Microsoft, on the other hand, needs to be able to do this. And it may involve them actually merging some of their already purchased studios into this entire thing, or maybe restructuring. But I think they are in the best position to do this, because if they do, we will get competition. If we get competition, Sony or even PlayStation will have to even up their game even more. And eventually what we're going to be getting is we're going to be getting more quality games. We're going to be getting a more competitive market. And, this so-called talk about a $70 price game for, Sony and the PlayStation 5, I think that news is going to change very quick, because once there's huge competition and once there's a huge measure and stiff resistance from a competitor, you're going to see prices go down, which is highly beneficial for gamers at the end of the day, and which actually also allows for developers to be able to get their games out there. I understand developers need to be paid, but if you're going to be paid, consumers are gonna have to buy your games. When they see that $80 price tag or $70 price tag, it's going to be a huge deterrent, because $60 has been the standard for so many years across all platforms, PC included. And so anybody that wants to sell anything more than that price range, you're going to have to be very, very convincing, because a lot of the games are going to still maintain the same standards. Yes, they'll probably run slightly better, but if you're going to play an adventure game, those games are going to be designed for the same time it takes to complete them, because they're based on everything that we already know. And all the touting that games are now easier or better to develop on the PS5 on the Unreal Engine 5, that tells us that you guys aren't really doing too much more work. And so what is the justification, Sony or whoever, that you want to sell games a little bit more expensive? I don't think there's any justification for that, but I think that's a separate video along the way. But with all these constraints coming in, I think this Batman game is actually going to be much more important than we actually think. I decided to make this video to talk about the business side of things because I really do enjoy it. It doesn't get a lot of views or whatever, but it's really pertinent, and it's really interesting to see that even months ago, I was already alluding to this possibility even before it showed up, because there's something very important about business. Even though games are fun, the business side is what actually delivers the games to us as consumers. I'll end this video here. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Let me hear your thoughts surrounding all of this in the comment section. I'll be there, liking and answering questions and actually engaging in the conversation. I like the comment section a lot. And I guess hopefully we'll see you in another video. Peace.